And Asta's already, after nearly 20 plus episodes, has finally got a little bit of his shonen power-up or acquiring some new gear. Yes, Asta has acquired a brand new blade, and let's see in this episode of Black Clover how he uses it. I think that this was one I was like kind of looking forward to a lot, because I remember like reading this in the manga and I was like, oh shit, it's going down. Like I remember like going through like the Mars stuff and I was like, oh shit, I can't wait for this is gonna be awesome. And I will say, like, if anything, being like honest and all that, I think it's because it was like a very long time ago that I've read the material, and I don't think it's more to do with the anime, but I feel like, I don't know, just a little bit in this episode where it's just like, maybe it's just because Mars was just saying the same line over and over again and very slowly walking like towards Mimosa, who was like, I have to heal, I can't move, who will come to my aid? It's like, come on, you know who the fuck's gonna come to her aid immediately. But yes, immediately as they got to the treasure room, because a lot of it was like felt like going on with like kind of the same jokes that we were going from last week, because obviously like Asta was like screaming at each other for that. Like it was like, oh okay, look, let's just go to the treasure room. Yuno has a very suspicious thing though, where he goes and finds this like scroll that has a bunch of wind powers going across it, and it has this illegible text going through. He's like, I can't understand this language, I don't know what it is. And the second like he actually starts reading it, his grimoire stops absorbing the text from what it seems like, and he doesn't know what happens. He's like, this is magic, I guess. Like, that's all I know. This is weird. Like, you know, of course, not being too many words, having too much of the conversation list. He's like, I don't know, man. Just, this is some weird shit. And then immediately as well with Asta, as Nero was kept pecking him, saying, you need to go here. There is something behind this wall. Go here now. And though Asta wasn't listening, because everyone else is like dicking around with a bunch of the treasures and going around. And then they realize it's like, hey, we've got Mars tied up, right? Oh, that just didn't work at all, because, yeah, it turns out that really weird, morbid, like, grimoire that Mars has, that you can see fire and diamonds going through it, yeah, that means he has two different variances of magic. Now, this is something that isn't supposed to happen, because people are always growing up with one set of magic, whether it be, you know, wind, water, earth, fire. Basically every school of magic for the most part kind of comes from like the same sort of like elemental pool of magic. Also, you have your light, you have your darkness, you have all your different kinds of elements of magic, but it depends what kind, like from these like whole principles where you kind of get your powers on, where someone could be using earth, but they could be using mud, they could be like different kinds, like, or sand. Like, it can differentiate from whoever is using it and how much mastery they have over their powers, where you see someone like using it like Noelle, who just uses pure water magic, but you can see people using it like mist, or like, you would technically count like the guy that the fog guy that we fought earlier being like a type of air magic that we've seen, even though there's different properties towards it. And everyone is beat up, everyone is getting their asses kicked. I will say, if anything, this episode, clearly it makes sense, obviously, with with last week's one, because obviously they put a lot of time and effort and a lot of animes into that, and obviously about in that episode. But I will say this one was pretty stiff for the most part. I did notice that a good couple of scenes, especially when we were going into a couple of like flashback like parts. Like, I was like, okay, like this it makes sense. We put quite a bit into like last week, so it was going through there, and I kind of wish that they got some of the other shots in there, especially like, you know, some of the stuff with Mimosa. I felt like sometimes like a little like cuts to other parts of the shot, but it was like, I kind of wish there was something a little bit more flashy, a little bit something more like bizarre, like added to it, like a little bit more of effect. But no, and especially as well when like Asta's sword come out, I kind of wanted to see a little bit more of an effect on there, or especially with the blast, which he pulls out, which Nero shows him as like Asta gets completely thrown into the wall that he was looking for from Mars, and finds out there's another blade. Not like, because this is the problem. Asta's been fighting Mars, and he's like, I cannot deal with him if he starts increasing his speed, if he starts like having the discovery magic. I need something else to deal with this. And what you know, Nero finds him another blade, and it looks exactly like his one, although this is a shorter blade. This isn't like his two-handed sword, this is a one-handed weapon. This is like clearly kind of more like a short sword, and this has a very interesting property though. This one doesn't cancel or destroy magic. This absorbs magic. This is a completely different item, as we saw Noelle got really badly injured in this episode, and that's why Mimosa couldn't move, because she's like, I'm going to use my most powerful spell, try and heal her, because like Noelle, half of her torso is missing, so I need to go and sort this out right now. And then we see that like Asta's able to absorb from her pool of magic and actually fire it back as a weapon, and that's like an interesting thing where like hopefully we get to see more on in the show, where it's like, I can use this to my abilities. I can take people's other magic and throw it back at them. We still don't really know if it's like he can throw it at around about the same strength, or it depends how much magic he really absorbs from this like sword. But it's definitely an interesting sword nonetheless, that he's like, oh, so it isn't just Asta gonna have to swing at all these problems. No, he's gonna have to slash from a long distance as well. I remember as well, like, maybe it was just because in the manga it looked a lot more like a Getsuga Tensho from Bleach, but in this one it was just like a little blue slash, and obviously that might be because of the element, but we're gonna have to wait and see. It's just nice to know that Asta's finally got a little bit more of the repertoire than just slash. Like at least he's now got a ranged attack, and especially as well, you see it in like the video games and all that, and especially with later on the manga, you get to see this is, I like to say, this is the turning point where it's like, hey Asta, use your fucking skull a little bit. There are other ways to use these swords. You can use these other than just that. And you see little bits of this where it's like Asta's like, oh shit, I can use the back of my sword, and I can use it as a bat, I can use it defense, I can use this, you know, like to pull up like dust and like all this kind of stuff. He actually uses like all kind of like weird dirty tactics and just slashing like people were saying. Like he uses all this stuff to his advantage, and then when he does get like these kind of magical effects to them, like he truly feels like he's actually got these, like feels like not really rewarded them, but it's like, yes, I have my small arsenal and I know what to do with them, and I'm actually going to utilize these in the correct way. We do get a little bit of Mimosa as well, more like accounting up for Noelle and her, and it's why pretty much that like the families, like she was kind of built up to high expectations alongside Noelle, because obviously they're both being royalty and all. And the problem was is that obviously we know what the future with Noelle was, and like just out of every time Mimosa just shunned it, like was completely better in everything. She was an excelling and healing, like, and it just kind of made it look like an embarrassment to the rest of the family. And it's like, oh yes, us Vermilions are the true, you know, leaders of all. It's like, you know, we're the like true superior family, and like you get to see kind of like a nice moment where like you see them as kids and all that. They truly actually give a shit for one another. They also, you know, like Noelle's being Noelle, Cinderella, but overall there was some nice moments in there. I definitely think like it could have been shot a little bit better, and obviously it felt really stiff for a good chunk of it. Like it really felt like they were just like, we need to, like, you know, we're saving up still. We need, like, there wasn't a lot of animators, there wasn't a lot of budget in this one, so it's like, yeah, like that's understandable, like honestly for the most part. But even still, it's the most critical part of the episode that I think kind of like drops the ball a little bit, and especially on like I kind of wanted a bit more of the flashier moment, because like, hey, Asta got a new blade, and it just didn't honestly just visually just like look very surprising. I like the glowing on like effect to like the blade, but it's honestly nothing really special to it. But let me know what you guys think and all that. Do you think this episode was a hit or a miss? I'm very curious to see what you think. But that's all for me. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you guys though next time.